dive into it here for another day on the Tall Can Audio podcast. Matt Robinson with you once more. We're on social media at Tall Can Audio. Give us a follow there and subscribe to the pod if this is your first time here, wherever you're hearing us right now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I don't know, maybe you're one of those iHeart Radio people. Wherever you are, there's a follow button.
Love the iHeart Radio app.
This is it,
As
man.
a Bell Media
As
guy.
a Bell Media employee,
Yeah.
Bunda hard pushing you to get that iHeart Radio app. So we're there. We're one of those shows as well. I don't know if they want us, but we're on board. It is Matt Robinson and Steve Bunda once more. As is often the case, and we didn't play it off any different this time. Too much for one show, man. We had to keep you around here.
It's been a minute since we've done the in-studio stuff.
This is it. Like, I think it's been 3 or 4 online episodes.
Minimum
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
4, I think.
Yeah, since the last time you were in studio. You're a busy guy. We appreciate you making the time, and it's snowing again, despite it being late
Just another
March.
day that ends
And
in
you're
Y. Are
still
you kidding
here.
me?
The guy still showed up. He's been under the weather. The weather outside sucks, and Bunda's still here. We appreciate you, man.
Love it. You know, just, again, these Tall Can Audio fans, they can back off. I think somebody hit me with like a carrot this morning. Like, they're throwing stuff at me now, man. Got
Better than a
pitchforks and
banana or whatever. Yeah, no, it's...
they're throwing everything they can find at me.
If you missed it earlier in the week, we had our buddy Ian McMartin from the Whippersnapper
Hi,
Brewing
Ian.
Company in here. Good guy. Hooked us up with a couple beers, man. We're going to have the Dry Irish Stout on this edition of the podcast.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day week.
This
Why not?
is it, right? Like, I guess we missed it by a couple of days, but it's always time for a stout. I always have time for a stout. Also, throughout the rest of March... first of all, I'd recommend you go back, check out that episode with Ian. He'll do a better job of teeing up everything they have going on at the brewery than I will. But throughout the rest of March, they have 2 different pizzas and a beer that are all dedicated to the Canadian the Canadian Cancer Society, and one of them being the Carol Ann beer. Like I said, a couple of pizzas as well. Plus, they got their blueberry pancake Easter beer coming up, man. One of my
Unreal
favorites.
pint.
It's such a good beer. That will be out next week. So people who are looking to check that one out, highly recommend you drop by the Whippersnapper Brewing Company or visit their website, which we will link to in the show notes. Look, man, we got to talk some fights.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
There's been a lot of news, eh?
That's a nice beer.
Tasty, eh?
Yeah,
Nice
yeah,
stout.
yeah,
You're the
yeah.
stout guy. This is your.
I am a
this is your game.
stout guy, both in beer taste and in build.
Oh, I
am a
forgot about your
stout
beer
fellow.
taste. I forgot about it.
No, this is right up my alley.
Yeah? Pulling it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Just sitting on this side of the table pulling it, man.
That's
Getting excited about that fight talk. Look, I want to talk to you about the White House card, and we'll do that in a minute. But let's start with the state of MMA right now, the state of the UFC right now. And I'm sure you have seen this before, as has most of our listeners. The meme that says, that moment when the worst person you know makes a good point. And you and I are sitting in a moment where Conor McGregor, Jon Jones, and Ronda Rousey have all made good points about the problem or problems around the UFC right now. We have seen Jon Jones ask for his release. We have seen Ronda Rousey say, after signing to fight for a different promotion on Netflix, we can talk about that in a few minutes if you want to, that the UFC is not paying fighters enough. And we have seen Conor McGregor say, we're just cattle. We're just treated like cattle. And he came right out and said what you and I have been saying, and lots of people have been saying for a long time. They don't put him on UFC 200. They don't put him on UFC 300. They don't put him on UFC White House. They put him on 201 and 301 and the one after White House. Like, those events will sell themselves, and then we'll use McGregor's name in theory to sell a different card. This is now a business way more than it is about creating the best possible fights. I don't think either one of us has a whole lot of love for any of those 3 names that I just dropped. But in this moment, I don't think any of those 3 names are wrong. Do you? Oh,
It's a
boy.
loaded question, dude, because
We're winding up Bunda.
yeah, look, there's like four different angles that we can go on at the comments to where things are. My big thing is the way the UFC is operating fighters now and making fights. They're not the best on best anymore. Versus like, and we'll start with the, Freedom 250, which
Freedom
I hate that. Like now we're all of a sudden the convoy again. Like it's just, but when I look at it, like, look, you're hearing a lot of these fighters, a lot of stuff kind of seems like it was very last minute again, which you go back a year ago, 300, very much the same thing. They're throwing things around at people. People are saying, give us more money. They're saying, F you, we don't do this. Dana White's always been that guy, though. So, look, when I look at Topuria versus Gaethje, I know it wasn't originally supposed to be the fight that they wanted.
That
Right?
will be the main event.
Yeah, they wanted Makhachev versus
White House.
Topuria.
Yes.
But they also wanted American to be in the main event, right? That was their tie. So it's kind of like, okay, whatever. Great fight. Gaethje Topuria. I'm all here for it. Pereira's gone. I look at that. It's like, okay, I've been again.
Alex Pereira is probably their best fighter right now. Maybe their biggest star right
But
now.
I don't like him moving to heavyweight. I just don't
yeah.
at his age. And I think he said he signed an 8-fight contract. Like, look, this guy's been a warrior for the UFC, but I also think this guy got knocked out in middleweight by Izzy Adesanya. Like, now you're moving up to heavyweight. I know you walk around at a certain weight. You don't fight these guys at a single everyday event.
And he's fighting Cyril. He was not the desired outcome. They were trying, clearly, as much as they deny it, to book Pereira versus Jones.
Exactly.
Couldn't get it done. And so now, look, this is a bit of a side note. Cyril gone feels like Where's Waldo a little bit. Like
He's just always there, right?
He's just always waiting. And when some heavyweight drops out for a much bigger fight that we all want to see, they're like, hi, I'm here. Like, all right, get in there, Cyril Gone.
Yeah.
So it'll be Cyril Gone versus Alex Pereira for the interim heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like it'll be a good fight.
I just don't like it.
Okay. I'm
don't.
getting that from you.
Yeah, I love Pereira. I love him.
Yeah.
I just think, you know what, you're light heavyweight, middleweight. I don't want him moving up at this age, the amount of times he's fought. I'm a big Sugar Show guy.
Yeah.
Fighting Sahabi. Like you got, a Canada versus America, a good Canadian fighter in Sahabi, but it's not the fight everybody wanted to see.
Arman Sarukin was supposed to be the guy there.
Sarukin or Sandhagen, right? And Sandhagen apparently has just not been. So when I look at, you asked me about, these comments coming out from, John Jones. Look, there seems to be something there, whether his injuries are much more serious and he's just taking shots. My biggest problem is with everything. Look, I don't disagree with fighter pay. Some people get paid more than others. But when I look at, Ronda Rousey, John Jones, and Conor McGregor, these are like 3 fighters that have had their names in the news for like 2.5 years, saying that they can, on social media, would fight and beat the hell out of this guy and beat the hell out of that person.
Yes.
And it's like they were always hinted at coming back, but they never did. And is it really about money? I look at the situation as, where would those 3 be without the UFC?
Sure.
They use the UFC to get themselves more money and then put themselves in a spot where you have promotions like Netflix and the PFL that are like, okay, you're a free agent. We have nobody else on our card. We can afford to pay you $15 million just to do a bullshit fight. So it's tough. Do I think that fighters get paid enough? Probably not. They don't. Like, it's a war in there sometimes. These guys go through so much, camps, weight cuts, everything. Some of these guys need to make a lot more money, but to kind of take shots at the UFC being like, hey, yeah, you guys aren't fit, like giving us a lot. I don't see Dana White or the UFC jumping up and paying $30 million or around there for John Jones in an interim fight against Alex Pereira. It just doesn't.
And yet, they are willing to pay that on their new Zuffa boxing cards. Like, they are willing to pay their boxers to get that up and going.
Yeah.
So
And
it is interesting. And
that's where I do agree with the comments being like,
you have the money.
You can't do both. And like, I look at a lot of these, fighters, and I think the reason why the UFC has gone on so long and been so good is because they have guys that, turnover, like their roster turnover has always, been pretty solid.
Yeah.
And you talk about John Jones, like that guy early 2000s carried the UFC for years. Ronda Rousey through like some dark years of, everything.
She was one of their biggest stars.
Absolutely. Conor McGregor too. Like,
yes.
I remember, about a decade ago when he's fighting, Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
And before that, he was making $3 million for a fight. Yeah. And that was crazy. And I'm thinking like, that's a decade ago.
Yeah.
That's not a lot right now. And when you were talking about it. So when I'm hearing them call out the UFC about paying guys and fighters and how they should be doing more, I'm thinking like, It's never really been there. It's always been a bit of an issue, but the roster is so big and you have a lot. Like, I know it's...
Man, I just look at it and I go, John Jones is right. If I'm as crippled as Dana says I am and my hips are as arthritic as you said, then just release me.
Yeah.
And
don't offer him the fight a couple days before.
No, that's right. And I promise you, Netflix, by the end of the year, will do the thing that you said the UFC should have done last year and book him versus Ngannou. And you will have that fight. And that's why the UFC won't let him out of his contract, because they don't want to give anybody... Ronda Rousey, for whatever you think of her and everything else she's done and the pro wrestling bullshit and the way she lost her way out of the UFC the first time, she is going to headline a major card on Netflix in 2026. Whether you think it's a freak show, whether it's looks like the Paul stuff, somebody's going to get that done. Ngannou is fighting on that card. Like, there are big names who have said, I want to fight MMA this year, and the UFC can't get it done or won't get it done. And I think that puts them in a bad spot. I think this moment where the UFC is this undeniable monolith that can do whatever it wants and we'll all just show up. And look, you and me, we're hardcores. We will show up.
Yeah.
But there will be people, man, that this Netflix card with Ronda Rousey, with Francis Ngannou, with Diaz, people are going to watch that thing, man. Like, it's going to do well. And is it going to compete every month with the UFC? Of course it's not. But can they sign some big names that the UFC isn't using properly? And when Conor McGregor says, look, you could use me to sell the White House card or to sell a UFC 300 or UFC 200, they don't want to. They'd rather treat me like... for whatever you think of him, like, we'll use you to sell a shittier, or what, not shittier, but a less attractive card later, right?
Yeah.
UFC 302. He's not wrong, man.
Well, they are and they aren't, because my thing is they've screwed Dana over too many times. Think about Conor McGregor pulling out
Both
of his last minute
and
fight.
John Jones.
Both numerous times pulling out of fights.
That's right.
We
can't trust
They
you
want to bitch
to
about
show up
that
at the
stuff.
White House. You're
Exactly.
right. Yep.
So they want to sell this UFC White House card, then a week before, oh, by the way, I haven't passed my drug. You know,
Sure.
There's just so much that goes into those two guys, their egos and the arrogance mixed in with Dana's ego and arrogance.
Yeah.
It's all.
There is no good guy, bad guy in this. There's just levels of asshole.
I find myself agreeing on different points and disagreeing on different points on so many levels here. Because I look at John Jones,
worst
like,
guy you know.
where have you been though? Where have you been? You were supposed to fight. Come back out. You took 2 years off to be a heavyweight. You fight a guy that's an undersized heavyweight and Cyril gone again. A guy that they're just like, okay, who do you want? Okay, we'll give you. Okay, Cyril gone. You're going in against John Jones. Okay, you handled that in 30 seconds. You want to fight Stipe Miocic after he hasn't fought in 4 years and he's 44 years old as a fireman, and it doesn't make any sense. These guys pick and choose their fights more. Conor McGregor hasn't been able to get back in the UFC since he had his issue, and then it's just well, I broke a couple legs again. I don't know, like, right?
He has multiple.
Dustin Poirier basically put him into retirement,
that's right.
And he sits there on social media talking like, I'm ready to fight every time, but nobody. Okay, so then fight. Like, fight. Do you need, like, again, these guys are coming from, well, I need $40 million to fight. Do you? Because you fought for like $500,000, a couple of years ago. Like, can you not do it? Like,
I get you.
How much do they want to fight versus how much do they want to be talked about fighting? Sure. I think I look at this Netflix card. I don't really care about it at all. I don't care about Ngannou fighting this Philip Linz guy. Yeah. Do I care at all about Nate Diaz against Mike
like
Perry?
Ngannou, though. Like, because I already have Netflix.
Sure.
This is the difference, right? I don't have to pay an extra $50 next. And I guess if you live in the US, you don't have to do that for the UFC anymore either. You just have to get Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
But if I got nothing else going on a Saturday night, I'll watch Francis Ngannou beat the shit out of somebody who...
But again, it's also something that, like, do you really get invested? My thing is, I look at it, it's a one.
The best fighters are still in the UFC. There's
and
no doubt about that.
The names that made, and again, Francis Ngannou is 39 years old.
And I got to be careful not to be too hypocritical.
100%.
The number of times you and I talked about this White House card being their WrestleMania, and it would be Ronda, and it would be Conor instead of the well, it's not going to be. Like, these are some good fights they have put on this White House card.
Yeah.
And I'm now going, yeah, but somebody else signed your biggest stars. Like, I got to be careful not to be too hypocritical here.
And they're not their biggest stars. They were their biggest stars. Ronda Rousey left the UFC after losing
but those
and
are big
kind
names.
of, taking off. Again, Ronda Rousey bothers me so much.
2 years ago, they had a match at WrestleMania featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is he your biggest star now? No. Is he a big name that will get attention? Yes. Like,
yeah.
That's sort of what this is starting to feel like a little bit.
Yeah, but it would be more or less if Steve Austin went and fought in AEW, right? It's not the same.
Fair enough.
Or TNA or something like that, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not like these guys, like Francis Ngannou walked away because he wanted a lot more money. And sure, he deserved it. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't go around to these other promotions and constantly crap talk to the other UFC when you're making this money because you went through everything with the UFC. Again, you want to go make money elsewhere, go ahead and make money elsewhere. But I look at that Netflix card and it's like, this is one where, sure, like you said, it'll be free and it's not a big deal. But I look at it, it's like, okay, like, do I really care about Ronda Rousey?
There's some names there. But
yeah, but they're not names that I care about anymore.
No, but you're Bunda, like, you're a hardcore fight fan. You have stayed in touch with it. You know who the best fighters are. If you're casual, if you sort of have come in and out and you loved Conor, or you did like that era where Ronda was a big deal, and you just have Netflix, like most people have Netflix, motherfuckers, that Ronda Rousey fighting, I'll click on that. Like, why not? Like, that's the value of these names. And I'm with you. You look at this UFC 250 or Freedom 250. Yeah. Fuck, whatever.
We don't need to use Freedom.
Honest to God. You look at that, for guys like you and I who understand, who the best fighters are right now, it's a pretty good looking card. But it does not have the same star power as that Netflix card. Francis Ngannou's a bigger name. Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano are bigger. Diaz is a big name. Like, they're going to do business on that card. That Netflix thing is going to do well. And, we should shift into talking about specifically this White House card, UFC blah 250. And it's honestly, man, it's a pretty good card. But the problem is, as is so often the case, the UFC hypes it up to this level that they can't possibly deliver on, right? Mm-hmm. Where you sit there and you go, this is going to make the Sphere show look crazy or look, small in comparison. The stars we're going to deliver, the people we're going to bring out. Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria should be a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
But it's not what you said you were going to deliver. Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane. It's a good fight, man. I'm intrigued by that. I'll watch that. Is it over the top star power? You're doing this at the White House to celebrate the 250th birthday of the United States. There are 4 Americans only on this card. And it's complicated. Like, there's a reasonable chance the main event of UFC Freedom 250 ends with the American laid out unconscious.
Very good chance. Yeah.
Like, the Russians were not going to be welcome. Like, when people talk about Khamzat Chimaev, when people talk about Islam Makhachev, like, both of those guys probably deserve to be on this card. You weren't going to invite the Russians to a White House card to celebrate to beat up Americans. Like, they did kind of have their hands tied in a way that I didn't necessarily see until it was booked, right? Until the card was released.
And I look into it too, is the UFC is putting all the money in for this too.
Yep.
The White House is not doing anything.
No.
So the UFC is shelling out a lot of money
in their beautiful new ballroom.
That's probably what it is, right? Like, there's so much money though going into this UFC event that I look at. That's maybe a big deciding factor too, right? It's a lot different than when you're just fighting in an arena.
Yeah.
You're building something out of nothing here. It's almost Fight Island 2.0, except it's on the White House lawn, and you're pretty much giving away 80,000 tickets. They're saying as a joke kind of thing. Like, it's kind of, that's where I look at it. Look, I think that the card is okay. I agree with you. I think it's not what everybody wanted.
If you had just said to me, this is UFC 329, that's a good card, man. These are good fights. But when you have hyped it up to be this all-time great card on the UFC, it's not. It didn't deliver, man.
No, it didn't. And I think, like you said, we talked about it, I brought it up earlier, but like 300, same thing. It fell flat.
Yes.
And so much hype, bigger and better. Like, Dana White does that. They sell this out and they say it's going to be big and best and whatever it is.
That's selling fights, right? That's been the thing forever in boxing and in wrestling and in whatever else. But this really fell flat.
Yeah. The one thing I do trust, though, is Dana White's, ability to know that if Gina versus Ronda was, going to be a good fight, he would have put it on this card. If Conor McGregor was actually serious about fighting,
it's two Americans.
He would give him an actual opponent, and he would be on the card. I think.
Don't you feel like this event wasn't about great fights? It was about celebrating. If you put Ronda versus Gina, it's two Americans. America can't lose in this fight. I don't know.
Yes and no. I think the way I look at it is it's tough matchmaking right now. And, I want to bring up Sean O'Malley just because I'm a big Sugar guy. But, again, Corey Sandhagen has been the name that everybody's been talking about for a little bit here now. And I don't want – and look, O'Malley said that I didn't duck him. I called and I asked for Ilya. He wanted to, have a shot. He wanted to make sure he can get – and like you said, Sukarian, he wanted Armand. He wanted guys – did he avoid Corey? No. They said, hey, well, do you want a hobby? And he said, sure. And I look at it as his comments later saying, Corey has not done a good job. I don't want to be that guy. He's made some enemies in the UFC that doesn't give him the matchups he wants. Sure. And, whether that's fair or not, I think that the UFC is in a spot right now where they want certain fights and they want to build a product. It's not what it was where, hey, these are the two best contenders. They're fighting right now. And
this ties into the new Paramount deal that a lot of people are pissed about, right? Is the UFC gets $7 billion from Paramount to put on a monthly show the same way they always used to on pay-per-view. But back in that era, that had to sink or swim on its own. Will somebody pay $69 or whatever the hell it was to buy this attaboy to buy this card? That pressure isn't there anymore. We better put something every month on these cards to make sure people will pay that money for this pay-per-view. Once you've already got the $7 billion in your back pocket and it's just part of a random streaming service like Paramount Plus, like Netflix anymore, that pressure comes off them a little. Now, not totally, because Paramount would be saying, hey, man, better fights here to get the subscriptions where we need them to be, right? There is some pressure, but it's not like selling a pay-per-view every month. It's now just, we have the money. You'll eat what we feed you, right? We'll give you whatever we want to give you every month, and that's how you end up in this type of place where the biggest fights don't happen the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, and that's my biggest beef with the UFC right now. And it sucks when you have people like Ronda Rousey and Francis and Conor and everybody that's no longer in the UFC that made their money in the UFC, calling them out. It's like, okay, good, because they're sticking up for those fighters that are probably looking for those next fights and trying to blood, sweat, and tears get through their camps to make a name for themselves so they could be in those positions where when the Paul brothers or whoever come around and they say, hey, we'll give you $10 million to fight, and they say, oh shit, that's quite the page.
Money, man. Yeah, I got an option here.
That's a big money thing, and that's the thing. These promotions again. Ronda Rousey versus Gina is something that's again, they pitched Dana White, and he's like, yeah, this is no, you guys are too older. It is a Mike Tyson, Paul brother kind of.
No, I'm with
kind
you
of
on
a
that.
Sideshow kind of thing, and he's like, I don't want really to.
Doesn't mean it won't make money.
Oh no, again, it's not even about making money at this point. It's are you going to put your name to that, and then when everyone looks at it, it's like. Yeah, this kind of again, when you saw Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson and everyone was like, okay, this is kind of just trash. So
it was.
And then it just like, okay.
This will be better than that, though, don't you think?
Well, they're both old. And again, Ronda Rousey,
But Francis is still in his prime and Nate's
Philip
not.
Lenz, though, is just who the heck are this guy?
I guess.
Yeah, and I look at Nate Diaz. This guy hasn't even fought in a while. But again, he's fighting Mike Perry, who's been a bare knuckle boxing kind of guy. So it's like, and he was released from the UFC because he's a bit of a head case, too. So there's all a bunch of issues around it's just the UFC world is in the MMA world, I guess I'll say, is just in all sorts, and it starts with UFC being exactly what you said it is, just not making the right fights. They're using the money that they have to just say eat what you get and shut up versus hey, we need to grind to make money in a deal here. They kind of cashed out, and it's like, all right, they have now
it's a tough balance to if Ronda Rousey and Francis Ngannou and Diaz and McGregor all say we want to fight MMA this year, and 3 out of the 4 of them go do it somewhere else. That's bad for the UFC, man.
Isn't it?
I know what you're saying, but you have to walk that line between we have the biggest stars and we have the best fights. And right now, you probably have the best fights. But the argument can be made that bigger stars or big stars are fighting elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
but what has
tough.
Francis Ngannou done since he left the UFC?
Oh, he said, honestly, man, it's not big for you and I, but a couple of really successful boxing cards.
But like what though? He got knocked out by Anthony Joshua.
I got it.
Lost the title. I know he made a lot of money, but he did nothing for his career.
Wow. What is your career other than trying to make money?
Well, you want to be the heavyweight champion,
or whatever.
Like you want to win championships. You want to be the best in the top sport. You want to go.
He's still the lineal UFC heavyweight champion. Nobody beat him for that title.
Well, sure, but again, at the same time, you walked away, and I look at it as, again, if you want to be the best of the best, you stick around, you tough it out, you do it, and then you bring up the fighter pay.
See, I don't agree with that.
I just look at it as. Okay, and Ronda Rousey, again, what has she done?
Ronda's a different story.
Gina Carano, like, what has she done? Like, exactly, what is Nate Diaz? Like, these are all people that the UFC could have easily said, sure, get back in here, we'll throw it at you.
Francis Ngannou is your heavyweight champion, and losing him,
he is the toughest
division has never recovered. That heavyweight division has been in shambles ever since he left.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was just pay me appropriately as your heavyweight champion. He didn't have ridiculous demands. He didn't, want to leave to be a bigger star. It was obviously a bit of a headlock between him and Dana. And I don't know. I don't know that Francis would regret his decision. He's made some big money to
set
fight
himself
Fury
up.
And to fight Joshua.
And his story is crazy, right?
Yes.
The way he came into the UFC and came to America to make himself, like, respect to him completely for all of that. But when you walk away and you just do a bunch of random fights against some boxers and you don't really do it, how many fights did he win? Could you tell me? Like, and you're a big UFC fan. Like, how many fights did he win?
No, he was not around, as the top guy for long.
No, but after he left UFC, like, how many fights did he even win?
In the UFC? Well, you did the
PFL. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I don't watch
neither. And that's the point. I think you can go and make all the money you want, but nobody cares anymore. Like, you're just a guy that's complaining about your old job. It's
you're
like, exactly. Like, it's just, and I love Francis. I think that the UFC should have kept him, and I wish he stayed in the UFC to keep his legacy going and had that fight against John Jones.
Do you think there's a chance by the end of the year, Netflix has booked John Jones versus Anthony Joshua?
I don't think
not Anthony Joshua. Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I think you're like Dana White, like you said, he's not letting him go, and I think the big thing is John, like these guys sign these contracts anyways. Again, they're contracted to fight. It's like, I need to have a certain raise in order to fight, even though I'm already tied to you. Again, John Jones could accept any money he wants.
Yeah.
And does he need to have, again, the $30 million to fight at the White House card against Alex Pereira? No. Is he going to be okay if if you took $5 million, you're still doing damn good, John Jones. Is it a disrespectful? Sure. Are other people making more money? Sure. But who are they fighting and what are they doing? Again, you can pay Francis Ngannou so much money to fight these boxers and whatever, but nobody knows or cares what he's doing anymore except for making money. And good for you, but it just sucks because, like you said, there's a disagreement there. Money's a problem. And that, again, if everyone wants to make money and do that, go ahead.
Got $7 billion. You can afford to pay your heavyweight champion.
I mean, and that's the easy thing to say, true. And I'm not disagreeing with that point of it either, but at the same time, then, like, you can't be paying everybody 30s and 40s and 10s and 5s, but that's what it starts though, right? And that's where I do see that only part of Dana White's understanding of, look, I got a whole roster of guys. I have to keep these guys hungry and fighting and wanting to fight. That's the other thing. You pay this one guy one fight, $5 million. How many times is he going to fight a year?
That's a good point.
He's not. He's going to fight once maybe, and then he's going to probably take 2 years off.
Yeah.
Look what happened to Connor. Again, like these guys that make this money, they kind of just, retirement. And sure, you can get to that point, but when you have these guys that are in their 20s and their 30s and they're, headlining guys, and, the one thing the UFC has always done is they give you an opportunity to brand yourself. Look at Sean O'Malley, and he's all the stuff he does.
They don't want you to brand yourself. They want the UFC to be the brand.
Yeah,
right?
but he does so much for his Twitch stream, and he makes a lot of money, and he's got his own sponsorships that he does. And again, that's what some of these guys can do. Yep. And so that's where I think, like, look, it sucks. And I hate this argument because it's like, I just love fights and I want to see the best fighters fight each other. And I know you do too. We all do. Right. And it sucks.
Like, if they had brought Ronda back and somebody knocked her the fuck out, like, I got time for that. Like,
I wouldn't be against it, but I'd also
big star and sold a fight that way and showed that she can't hang anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with that?
And I think that the UFC already has problems with this thing too. Is look at guys like Tony Ferguson. How many times did we see this guy get beat up? And it's like,
dude, hang him up.
Yeah,
man.
Donald Cerrone. Like, I love Cowboy, but man, oh man, these guys, some of them hang on too long, and it is really sad. And then you think, well, they're doing it because they need to. Right, that like a lot of these guys they hate getting out of the limelight, but they probably need the money, right? And that's what sucks. So
pay them more.
That's exactly so. How much do you pay a fighter? That's the thing. Like, fighter pay is going to be a certain thing, but again, you can't be shelling out millions to the guys that are just fighting. You want them to fight three or four. You fight 3 or 4 times a year. You're making over $100,000, a couple into the 100. You're well off.
Yes.
But if you're going to fight once a year for $1 million,
but then you got to pay the guys to come and spar with you. You got to pay your coaches. You got to pay like all the money. Like like it sounds like a lot of money. It disappears fast, right?
It for sure does.
So it's a whole sub economy that is out of whack at the moment.
It's crazy and it's annoying because it's like it's taking away from some good cards and some good fights.
100%.
And at the same time, it's just like you look. Do you ever look back at some of these like old cards and you think like, I miss the old UFC these days when it was
UFC 100.
UFC on Fox, UFC.
Yes,
like these.
I rewatched 100.
UFC Unleashed,
like, up and down, and you're like, fuck, man, like they couldn't do this now. They could not rebook that card. 200 turned out okay. 300 was a flop, right? Like you just couldn't get it set up. Guys bail out. Guys can't get booked or don't want to get booked. Dana, fighting them too hard. It's a bit of a mess right now, man. And we'll see where it goes. I know we got to get you out of here, but it's a fascinating time, man. I don't know that it's a great time for the UFC. It's a pretty good time for MMA. Like you and I have talked 100 times about the Paul brothers stuff and the what. I think they're kind of a clown show. But if they can create, and if somebody is willing to step up, and it will never go month to month, head to head with the UFC, but one-offs now and then that create opportunities for fighters to get paid and get paid real money, I'm good with that, man. I got no beef with that, right? More places for these fighters to get what they're worth.
Yeah, just know what you're signing up for. That's all, right? If you're a fighter.
Yep, for sure.
And unfortunately, we'll watch.
100%.
That's what we do.
I will watch
Ronda
versus Gina. Like, I don't know what that says about me, but I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Because I got Netflix anyway. Well, I got your links and I got Lloydie's services and whatever else.
We all have our ways.
We got our ways. I will watch that shit, man. So we'll wrap it up here. Earlier this week, in case you missed it, on Monday, we had our buddy Andrew Stoughton from the bafflip.ca on
Andrew.
talking all things World Baseball Classic and Blue Jays spring training. On Wednesday, Ian McMartin.
Ian, hey.
Hey. From the Whippersnapper Brewing Company was here. Yesterday, our buddy Bunda was here.
That idiot.
That guy. What up? Talking football, talking baseball, talking hockey. And we will be back at it next week with the usual parade of nonsense that TCA is normally churning out. Appreciate you, man. We've kept you here a long time, as we always do. I know you're under the weather. I know the weather itself is crap, and you showed up for us anyway, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me in studio again. I'm glad I could finally pay off my debts of
that too.
November of 2025 that is now being paid in March of 2026.
There you go, man. And like you said, the last bunch of these have been done online. So good to get you back in here, buddy. We'll wrap it up here. For Steve Bunda, my name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening to another week of Tall Can Audio. We'll see you all on the next one.